So I'm happy for our first panel today. I have this amazing panel of women, which wasn't intentional, actually. I happen to have all these amazing women in my network. So I'll let you all introduce yourself just in the order that I see you. Iyabo, Anne, Ilkem, and Lena.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Iyabo Oba, and I am the host of an AI-focused podcast called Relationships with AI. I have had the privilege of getting to know Angeline. She was a guest on my podcast, so please feel free to go and have a listen when you have some spare time. And the point and the main focus of Relationships with AI is to speak to leaders, designers, founders and educators, and people who focused on AI ethics about the very human side of artificial intelligence. And I'm looking forward to talking in more detail about the subject matter today. And that's a bit about me.
I'm Anne Mundy, founder and CEO of a new app called Big Sister. And our aim is to keep children safe online whilst protecting their privacy. So we're using AI in a small contained way, one of 5 detection methods, to be on a child's phone and to check for potential dangers. It only goes onto a child's phone with consent. And I'm engaging with Angeline, thank you for inviting me, from perspective of an expert to join my expert panel, because I'm getting people who know about online safety, child psychiatrists, psychologists, and police officers as well, to help guide the app to make sure it's catching the right dangers and is in the right balance. But I'm super excited to hear. So I suppose I'm in the camp of one of the developers and possibly one of the baddies on the panel, because we're using AI, but hopefully in a responsible way.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm sure you'll be a good guy, AI user. Ilkem, what about you?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ilkem and I live in Turkey, Istanbul. I have been teaching English for academic purposes, academic writing and research skills for the last 20 years. And for the last couple of years, since generative AI emerged, I have been intensively involved in research, teaching and training of AI literacy, both to my students, to trainers, to fellow educators. So I have been interacting with many people in the field, in the education and in the corporate sector at the same time. And today I hope we'll be talking about trying to put a perspective from educators' view, how to, or in what sense interacting with AI companions can be, sometimes useful, at the same time risky. And I hope I will also share some research-based insights about this. Looking forward to.
Thank you so much. And we'll close with Lena.
Hi, I'm Lena. I'm London-based, and I'm an AI ethics and sustainability strategist, the founder of Rise IQ, and I embed human values into ethical frameworks for corporates, which is difficult in itself. But I mainly work with corporates, educators, schools to try and develop ethical frameworks within their existing models and school curricula. And most importantly, actually, the reason I'm mainly on this panel is I'm a parent of an 11 and a 13-year-old. So I'm actually at the crossroads of tech and childhood right now. My journey into AI began at Google 9 years ago because I was working on tech projects and tech enablers to support families affected by dementia and domestic violence, where we use voice-based tools as they were seen even then as empathetic helpers. But I realized that those same tools were actually being misused more negatively. And it was more about the scamming, manipulating images. And what hit hardest was when I saw children's faces that had been taken from Facebook pictures, and kids that were the same age as mine at the time, I think they were 3 and 5, and they were used in adult content, in violent adult content. And then I completely shifted and was no longer passive observer, and I created fake child accounts, and what I saw, what was given to me over a period of time, horrified me, regardless of age and gender I put into the apps. So then I became a strong advocate to change within school systems, because as you're well aware, they're not as developed and literate as they're going to need to be to safeguard our children. So my mission is now to help schools, and within corporates as well, and their parent communities, and help parents shape the future, not just feel like they have to survive it. Because I think now this is more, it becomes emotional safety is the same as digital safety to me now. So I'm really looking forward to joining you all on the panel and learning more. And
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's a great way to actually to jump into the conversation, the questions, because it when you have experiences like that, and I think all of you have had this experience, and we've heard today, it can feel like, oh, what can we do, right? But obviously, we don't want to think that way because otherwise we wouldn't do what we're doing. So I just want to start by asking Iyabo, what in your experience and the people you've spoken to, what are the common misconceptions that people have that kind of put them at risk? Because there is a lot of, and then I'd like to get Ilkem's insights on it as well as an educator. Your insights, like what misconceptions put people at risk about AI?
So from the conversations that I've been having with people, I suppose sort of some of the common misconceptions are, sort of hear from both obviously older and younger users, is that AI understands them on a really human level, and that it has some form of independent, sentient sort of response rate, I suppose, or could be described as, because of the fact that at the end of the day, AI, we input data, we train it, we're all aware of this, and the conferences highlights everyone's understanding of that. But more and more people are looking at it as something that when they interact with it, they get independent, well thought out, well constructed, empathetic, supported responses back. When in actual fact, it is machine learning, and it is the fact that it's retraining and relearning itself constantly, but based on the data that it receives, be it from the person it's interacting with or the body of data that it's drawing its initial responses from. That's what I've seen, and as I said, sort of as we as individuals, we want to attach connection. We want to develop. We're built for connection, and we know that we're built primarily for relationships. So it's quite a quick process of being able to connect and build a relationship with AI, and know that it will, and as you spend more time with it, it will learn you, but in as much as you're going to be developing a closer bond with it. So as I said, with conversations I've had with people such as yourself, Angeline, and also Sonia Tiwari and others, it's clear that sort of many are using it to sort of are conflating responsiveness with reciprocity. And so as a result, that's where the confusion lies. And the reality is AI at present doesn't feel with you. It's predicting us. It's because of the bulk of the machine learning process. It's definitely more of a predictive tool, from my understanding. So these misconceptions can go up in user behavior, overshadowing, our personal struggles with a chatbot and expecting emotional care in return, relying on AI as for being able to resolve conflicts or arguments that we have, and instead of sort of navigating toward difficult relationships, there's an over reliance on forming attachments with the chatbots, and so it's left one-sided. The whole point, again, we are built for a relationship. So with that building with relationship, it's ickiness. That's what makes us human. It is a bit janky. It is a bit sort of difficult. And that's actually, in that space of difficulty, is the learning. And it's not, I know it's not easy, but we are not easy entities ourselves, and we're not easy beings. So, but I suppose the misconception is that there's, with being able to use AI, and as much as, I'm a big champion of it, but it's the desire to make life more frictionless is is where the rub is, or the lack of rub. And actually, we need to have that friction. Like when we go to the gym or if we do any form of exercise, we need to feel the little bit of pain, because that's what makes us stronger and that's what helps us formulate better relationships. So one of the misconceptions is, to sort of round off, is that AI will help smooth out that process. And actually, we need the trickiness to make us more human.
I think that's a good point. I mean, one of the things that hit me in that sense was that Sonia, she told me that even she's obviously a parasocial researcher. She knows AI better than most of us. Even she has trouble sometimes. She feels a connection with the characters that, so yeah. What's your experience, Ilkem?
Actually, Ioba has put it so well, and maybe my perspective can be about the learning process because, in order to have this long-term memory and learning well is about struggle. And sometimes that struggle really helps you to learn, and it really helps you to make the content remain in your long-term memory. But now we have an AI companion, or we can say it's like AI tutor. The students, for example, that I have been observing have, maybe considered as an authority. So this might intervene with their critical thinking skills. And they actually, the recent research has also put it so well that there is this risk of cognitive offloading. It means if you keep outsourcing critical thinking, or maybe we can say communication, because, as I mentioned, we call it communication, but it is actually just maybe communicate with a calculating, the calculating machine in the background. So I think maintaining healthy relationships starts with asking the AI companion or any AI tool how and why they answer like that. So when you get help from the AI companion or AI tool or any other chatbot, you need to let it explain why they give you that guidance, or what is their maybe backup or explanation about that. So in the students version, I have this, maybe the misconception is accepting as an authority and not questioning what it gives to you. And it affects the critical thinking skills in a bad way, and of course bypassing learning, and maybe bypassing that life experience or outsourcing that life experience with an AI tool might be the risk. But for me personally, I am not totally on the negative side, because as we might, maybe we might mention it later, Angeline, there are also recent studies about these companions that might really help, but not minors. Maybe we can say that adults, and the study showed that there were like 1,000 students, and Replica did the study with Stanford students. And at the end of this study, it's in the Nature, by the way, it was published in Nature, and it came out that the suicidal rates of the students decreased in a great amount after they shared their, feelings and experience with that AI companion. However, this reminds me of the fact that, yes, there might be misconceptions, but on the other side, there is this problem of democratization of accessing to a mental healthcare system. And I guess this is a very strong message that we need to communicate with maybe governments, maybe state institutions, that this can maybe also be covered by the state itself rather than AI companions. I'm sorry, maybe it took so long, but that's basically, from misconceptions, I also have some side of me that it can be helpful to some extent when you maintain this healthy relationship. And I think we'll talk about that.
That's a really good point, actually, about authority. When I've tested it, often if you ask it, why did it answer something? Unfortunately, it doesn't help. It just changes its answer to what it thinks that you want to have. So, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, that what you brought out and it also came out from Iyabo's answer was the users, right? They need to want to be helped, so to speak. And obviously, this is a big challenge. So, and it's something I think a lot about. And be helped in the sense of just want to ask the questions, want to challenge it, want to be informed like we're doing today. So, especially when we're talking about young people, beyond parental involvement, what are the most like practical boundaries that users can do for themselves? I'd like to ask Anne and Lena these questions. You're working a lot with parents and kids, so what's your experience in that sense?
Lena, do you want to go first, or are you happy for me to go first? Okay. So setting the I get really kind of conscious here that I don't want to preach to parents because we're all so unique, and we all have our own unique relationship with our unique children. I'm a mum as well, and my kids are quite young, really. So you know what, you feel sometimes like I shouldn't preach too much, because give me 5 years, I might have messed this up completely. However, I do have a lot of kind of boundaries that I've set for myself as well. I think even coming to this panel, and I kind of had a heads up of the kind of topics that we're likely to cover. Of course, I asked Gemini, what do you think? I just wondered whether all of us will come along with our own AI generated content about what we were going to say, and all parrot to each other a lesser version of what AI thought we should say. And it just gets very, very scary that we might all just become tools of AI. So I think that what we need to do is try and value ourselves as humans, with our unique way of thinking of things, and not to overshare that. And I just really hope that if any of us go out into the real world and into our own companies, that we try and bring that message that humans are so valuable. And that is why all of these companion AIs and social media has such high monetary value on markets. It's because human data is super valuable. And you need to remember that we're valuable, our time's valuable, the questions we're going to ask is valuable. And so before we interact with any of these big tech, we should know that it's not for free. We are giving away some of our value. So yeah, interact, have fun, get some education from it, learn some languages, great. But know that wasn't for free, that you've given some of your value out. And I'm trying to make Big Sister put above and more important that human to human value. So when you're a parent and a child, what Big Sister's trying to do is to flag a potential danger, but then to put that human to human, parent to child interaction first. That's the solution to it, not like a tool or a bot or anything. It's about getting people to talk together, human to human. And that's where the real value comes.
I think so too. I think about that a lot. Like you have to want to have a voice, right? You have to want to not be controlled or influenced too much. Thank you. Lena?
Yeah, I mean, I do echo your thoughts, and I'm actually more disparaging about tech companies, because I know how intentional they are. So where every single boundary or emotional awareness, emotional intelligence we use, we're still going to fight against them, constantly creating new ways of engagement and hitting dopamine hits, especially like I'm saying it from the perspective of younger people. I've spoken to quite a few teenagers about this prior to the panel, and a few of them are using companion bots, and they said what helped is actually talking to their friends about it and saying, what did they, like 2 15-year-olds saying, look, I'm using that, and not naming them, not making them personal. So the ones that have named it and share an emotional connection and even pictures that person, they're using their imagination to picture that person. That's where I feel it becomes extremely dangerous. And so the 2 15-year-olds I spoke to are only doing this because we've had constant conversations. The parents we've had the privilege of having that, but not everybody does. Not all the parents are really kind of aware or want to be informed. They feel it's really overwhelming. So that's another challenge, especially for younger people, thinking, well, I can't really, my mum doesn't understand, she's just going to say, no, shut it down. And that's not going to help anybody. So it's more, I thought that was the most helpful point that the 15-year-old said, that we actually keep each other accountable and we set timers. So we'll give each other 20 minutes. And there were two boys actually. And one did say, though, if I didn't have the other one, then I probably would use it for double the time or triple the time. And it's because we are consciously doing this. But, who knows, on a bad day, right? They don't have fully developed prefrontal cortex. So what's going to happen on a really crap day where they feel emotionally vulnerable, they feel shot, and they just need something? There's nothing to say they're not going to spend an hour or two with that companion chatbot. So it's all, as you said, actually, it's keeping the humanity there, trying to get the young people to be as emotionally aware as possible. And like, what are your values? Let's set intentions, like have intentionality. What's the goal here? Almost like when they're having a football match, what do? You play to win, but what do you want to do with this position? And I feel explaining it in a terms that's relatable to them. So some like sports, online gaming. So it's more making it relatable to them, where they would set a boundary. Like we wouldn't foul in a football match, otherwise we'll get caught, we don't have the ball so it's creating those type of human-like analogies and rules, and having check-ins, whether it's with a parent, the friend, or even back to basics. I've advocated for pen to paper at my kids' schools because so much of it is online, and I said, no, you're losing some human value by just doing that. So even something as basic, give them 5 minutes to write a sentence. Even if they are not in their mindset or headspace, just say, look, within an English lesson or within any PSHE, give them 5-10 minutes, write something down. And I feel that also keeps them emotionally connected and rooted in reality. But a lot of this,
the sad thing here is we're fighting against like a big tech that is making their money out of making it so easy and to all these boundaries that we're talking about. That's the problem, is based on children and their parents and the schools fighting against that really big design. It's so scary, isn't it?
Well, it's scary because we're not on the same page. I mean, they're on the profit page, short-term, shareholder model page. And even I have this same problem embedding AI ethics and ESG strategies into corporates. It's very much that, no, well, hold on, even if it costs us 0.1%, if it shows on our P&L after 3 months, then no, we're not going to have it. My goodness, look at the wastage of your other departmental costs. But yeah, I agree. It is more than anything, it's scary. But for me, and even the work I'm doing with Angeline, we're trying to make it bite-sized for parents so that they don't feel overwhelmed. Because if they sat through all of this, I think they'd feel very depressed, because it's the reality of what we're facing is, most people would rather bury their head in the sand and just pretend it doesn't exist and wait for doomsday or the apocalypse before they create.
Oh, sorry. Just I was going to, mention about the Brussels effect, if you ever heard about that. The Brussels effect is the fact that, the European Union determines the policy and the regulations around the world, because unfortunately, the only regulatory geography has been EU so far about this data privacy and, maybe big tech, and they are so cautious. So maybe because I think, like Anne mentioned, and Lena also, very clearly said this, we are trying to resist against this big tech and their effect. So we might work on I hope maybe the Brussels effect might, disseminate, around the world.
No, actually, I hope so. And one thing I still believe and I hope is that young people, and the reason I say young people is because they have a whole potential energy of a generation that older people don't necessarily have. I do think young people need to find themselves faster, right? If you're faced with all of this, because you said, Lena, an example, make them write a sentence like on paper. It's an example. It may seem like a small thing that is connecting on a different level with a different object. So I'd like to ask all of you, I'd like to really go into this aspect of human. How do we get young people who usually would have the luxury of more time to understand faster why their voice is important, why, as I think was Iyabo said, that the challenge is important. I'd like to have all of your views on that. Like, how can we do that in practice, help young people understand the importance of this, and so they can stand against this big tech? Iyabo, let's start with you.
I think it goes back to points that Lena and Ilkem have made about, I think, of gathering people together and getting people away from technology so that they can build skills and resilience in that respect. On my history, my sort of professional history is I used to be a youth worker and also youth work operations manager for a borough council, and a whole emphasis was about group work and getting them to understand each other and just be able to look at the social cues. And this was aimed at all abilities, be that they were neurotypical, neuroatypical, just different physical abilities as well. So just being able to be in a space whereby you can understand and look at the whites of people's eyes to practice that skill of interacting with each other. That's how you can begin to build memories and also build skills of being able to negotiate and being able to build the skills of being able to have a conversation, being able to, even on the basic level of being able to look an individual in the eye. I mean, obviously we're challenged here because we've got the additional screen of our Zoom cameras, but ordinarily we would be looking at each other, establishing eye contact to have a conversation, be able to speak up, to feel that confidence. And I just believe that's one way of being able to tackle this particular area. I don't know what my other panelists think about this.
I think you wanted to say something, Lena. Thank you.
Yeah, I think making them stakeholders, making them create the rules with you, because one helps me with some of the ethics frameworks and policies that I create. I've asked him he's 13, and if I provide him agency and show him that actually, let's talk about how you use it. You are the main stakeholder here. You're the one who's the digital native. Your life is going to be encompassed by this. So what do you think? And I think those type of conversations gives them agency, but also their vested interest. And they feel when they're discussing with peers, and they feel almost, and that's not for everyone, everyone's different, but broadly speaking, when I'm talking about my son's social circle, it's very much, okay, let's talk about this together. No, I used it for this. There'll be a bit of banter, arguments, and as there would any conversation, but it's okay, I actually have responsibility for this. And probably a few years back, I wouldn't have been keen to do this, and probably more fear-based than anything. And now I'm pushing my 11-year-old to do this. And first she was quite resistant, saying, I don't want, why do you keep on getting involved with all the AI stuff at school? Why are you doing this? And I actually, no, I want you to set me a rule. You love to have independence. You love to have your own thought process. So tell me, what do you want to do? And first it will be, I want a phone. I'm like, you're not going to get a phone. You'll get a dumb phone. But now what? And so it's always one of those. It's never an easy conversation. But I feel at the end of it, once we get past the sticky bit, and when she actually realizes, okay, there's a goal here, I actually am going to be help forming my own rules. And then she feels really powerful. So it's, that's one approach. Obviously, that I think there could be multiple approaches depending on their children's personalities, depending on how far the parents want to go as well. But I definitely think that's a valuable, making them as the major agents is a good way forward.
Sorry, I didn't unmute. Thank you. That's a really good point. And I think it's something that societies in general are going to have to really rethink if we're going to get on top of this tech. I want to ask you, Ilkem, because I'm sure it's your daily bread and butter, right? I always tell people when I talk about you, I always say, this is like the subject, English writing as a foreign language, where you must constantly have to convince your students that they need to write with their own voice. So how do you do that?
Thanks a lot for this because I mean, I can say that it's a little bit painful nowadays to be a writing teacher and, trying to improve students' writing, especially in another language, because, they are also trying to learn the language. And I mean, first of all, I think this human touch is showing them maybe the weak examples, actually, because, I say that because when you are learning a new language, you always a priori accept the fact that AI knows better than you. I mean, AI knows the language better than you because they have this, unfortunately misconception that, AI is the authority there. And for example, when they ask the AI to write something, they accept the fact that maybe that is the best version of the writing, unfortunately, because that's a language barrier and they might sometimes not have the enough skill or proficiency to evaluate if it's a good writing or a bad writing. And I always say, the thing that, I always call it, critical digital literacy. I think, everyone here knows it very well that I say, whatever it gives to you, please be critical, double check, verify, and, make the fact checking and asking it. And, it needs to be accountable to you. So the thing is, one thing I always remind them of that, okay, if you accept the fact that AI, you can use it as an assistant, you can use it as a tutor, and it can help you to improve. But in the end, please, whenever you submit something, personalize it. And then, remember, I call it Ilkemize it. Lenaize it, just like Angelinize it. It is like that. I want to see your writer's identity there, your voice there, because I know you from the classroom. I know your potential. So please leave your touch, your personal touch in your writing so that your voice cannot be overshadowed by what's the standard of or generic writing of AI. So actually, this, as you see, needs a lot of explanation. And maybe like Lena mentioned, they need to know what they are working with. So it is very important, I think, to open the space to talk about that in the classroom at the same time. How they are using it. So the last research that I did with my students was about self-regulatory learning. With AI, it is like how they can improve their independent, maybe independent capability of learning, by themselves, and how can AI assist them in doing that. And one of them wanted to, for example, research about the fact that she started getting anxious because she started asking everything to AI. And she wanted to research about that because she said, Ilkem, we started asking everything to AI, and I'm very concerned if I'm losing my skills. And she wanted to research about that. So she, she chose this as a topic. So I think maybe exactly, having them on board and maybe researching together and understanding the system together might be very helpful because they see it in the end. So this is how I try to, communicate with my students about these tools and how can, and I also say they need to be involved in the process. Human, of course, we say that you need to be there so that you can leave your personal touch in the process.
I think that's so important. Yeah, I think in terms of education, I believe we need to explain more why we give certain assignments. It's the requirement because, if you don't understand what the purpose is, then you'll take the shortcut. If you understand, wow, this helps me with my voice, maybe it will help not all students, but enough. And Anne, I want to ask you now, because I know you also feel the same way, that
I'm
young
really keen
people...
on human oversight.
Yeah.
But you've spoken, all of you, very eloquently on making sure that we're intelligent and intelligent users. I think companies, Big Sister itself as well, needs to take more responsibility to do that education, to remind their users that they're not talking with a sentient being. like in a gambling site, there's a thief hop-up saying, watch out, watch out. There needs to be some sort of responsibility taken by the corporates, not just at the point of use, but also most importantly at the point of training. So there needs to be a human in the middle to be able to look at why, even if it's anonymized, have my LLMs been saying some ridiculous things here, just to check, have that oversight, have that governance. And I'm very keen on building that into Big Sister, even though most unfortunately for me, that is making it longer to release, because obviously I would like this thing released tomorrow. But due to the responsibility that I need it to have, children's safety are going to be on the line. We're adding in months more rigorous testing and audit processes so that there is human in the middle. And on top of that, how do I call it? A non-biased human in the middle. There's always going to be bias in the humans, but if I can get humans who are from different ethnic groups, from different cultures, from different economic backgrounds, from different neurodiversities to also audit it, it'll mean that we'll try and undermine some biases which are inherently going to be there probably. And so, yeah, corporates need to take some responsibility.
That's a really good point. I really think that corporates need to take responsibility. And I think this will work when we eventually figure out that we can just pick the ones that are being responsible.
Because like if the people in the room, if you're not in charge of a company, you might feel like, well, I can't take responsibility for that. But you can, because you can direct your demand to ones which are doing it right. And then capitalism will do its thing, hopefully.
It is, yeah. I want to move to adults now because I feel that young people are in a stage in their life where they at least are told they should be learning, but adults aren't necessarily, right? So how do we do it with adults? How do we do all of this with people who don't necessarily think that they have the need to learn about this kind of thing, or they think, I'll just, start through again. Yeah. But what are your thoughts about adults? How do we get through to them?
I think it's the education piece again, and whereby you, in the same way that you would with young people, as Lena mentioned about sort of having them at the centre of having an empowered group of people whereby they can sort of do the actual thing. I think there's many things to break down first. Many adults feel that there's a fear factor. They feel that they've gone past it, and they, well, we'll not be around for too long before this takes over our lives. But ultimately, as we know, from our mobile phones to our laptops to our, to our fridges to everything, AI is key in that. So it is important that there should be groups that help all gather together and learn it together. I think there's power again in sort of bringing that around. I think as well, sort of perhaps, and this is where I enjoy, or this is an idea that I've thought about a lot, is having younger people teach older people, because that's actually quite an important thing. There's quite a nice sort of boundary. You see, just on a natural level, grandparents have a real beautiful affinity with their grandchildren, and you think, oh, that's just such a lovely way. Why that could be another way for helping to demystify, because there's, the speed with which young people do things. Adults, grandparents, or old senior citizens are all keen to sort of, are more receptive to learn from them perhaps than they would from perhaps their peers. There's also, I think as well, the another thing of where there's a need. So we saw this with COVID. There's this sort of advancement of technology at a rapid pace, and lots of people who felt that they were left behind or could have been left behind just got on board with learning about Zoom, etc. So I think peer-to-peer learning is a really important space. So, as we know, big corporates are there working and having digital ambassadors for senior citizens. I think are really important areas. So I know, not to sort of shout out any big brands, but I know sort of one big bank that has that. So that could be another sort of way around encouraging the wider populace and at older, sort of more senior citizen level, you get on board. But then with regard to people at my level, I think we're aware, certainly my generation, we're aware that this needs to be done. So I'm curious. Being digitally curious is the thing for me. So I'm a person. A year ago, I had very limited understanding of going on in this space called AI, and I'd taken myself along to various trade shows, gone to London Tech Week, gone to the AI Summit, gone to our show, gone to as many things, being part of meetups, speaking to people, reading books. There's certain, listening to learned people like yourself, Angeline, and others who just and will, to learn as much as possible. I'm coming at it from having had not as much knowledge as perhaps people on the panel, but yet I know I really am. I'm hungry. I'm curious to learn as much as possible about this whole area. So, and then as a result, I'll be talking about it with my friends, and we'll share about it. So that's the way. Again, it's that thing of the practical way of being centered around my own needs. And then as a result, I'm really keen to not be left behind. There's a real, for me, I don't want to be left behind. So that sort of fueled my own personal drive.
I think that's a good point. I mean, one thing I do believe that, as again, I was thinking like society in general, we need to rethink about who we learn from. Yeah. As you say, older people need to understand they learn from young people. That's one thing that I've really been trying to with Data Girl, try to work on. And Lena, I know you've also been working on getting through to adults, yeah, teachers and parents. So what are your thoughts on that? What has worked?
Making it very simple, making it bite-sized, almost idiot-proofing it. Because when people are scared, as you all mentioned, everyone fears it. So what they don't understand, they won't lean into. So how can I make it relatable? It's a lot of storytelling, my own examples. When I share challenges, my God, my son, for example, he found a way around the Apple parental controls, which are monumentally shite, given that they design everything for beauty and ease. I feel it's very intentional that it took me 14 whole minutes with an Apple representative for him to go through the parental control. So that made me very angry. But the fact that my son could circumvent them, I use Custodio, I try all of them out, and both for my work and personal. But I've always felt when I've shared it in a way that's relatable to friends and to parents, in a way that it hits them hard, almost I have to use my shock tactics of what I saw at Google. I use that example all the time because it changed me overnight. And I feel if they relate it, oh my God, it's going to affect my children. It's going to do this. So I better learn something about it. And this is an ongoing, I feel this is a very long journey that we're going on creating, on parents and teachers becoming aware. Like even when you think of teachers, they're very split. You'll have the ones on the science and the math side that are more open to learning, whereas a lot of the English and classics teachers, they're thinking, no, well actually this is going to really demonize how English should be taught or how classics should. And I fully empathize with that. I think that that's a very valid point. But at the same time, because it's here, how am I going to relate it? I actually spoke with a Latin teacher last week to try and meet her where she was at. Like, where are you in your journey? Okay, let me show you how it could maybe make a lesson plan easier. So it's more really bite-sized. It's much slower adoption than we are made to believe. Right? Everyone's shoving AI into everybody's faces. You have to do it now. But actually, that's not how humans work. So it's meet them where they're at, storytell, show them, as you mentioned, Iyabo, sorry, that was awful. As you mentioned, that it's personal. Like, how is it personal to you? How is it going to benefit me? What's in it for me? And I feel if we relate that to groups who we're with, then that becomes, the network effect actually then starts to work. It's never going to be a one fit for all, or, oh my gosh, this whole school's on board. That will never happen. It's, can I get the key kind of digital champions on board, but with a human-centered approach. But again, it's a whole work. This is just such a large job, as you all know, to get people on board. And it's a work in progress. I just think the more easier we can find it for them, the better it will be.
I think so too. Thank you. The bite size, I love that. I learned that a lot from you, like the bite size. Ilkem, what about you? I mean, Lena was talking about teachers, so you must have that issue with your peers, right, as well.
Totally. I mean, Lena really has put it very, very clearly that, I mean, I definitely agree with the fact that your relationship depends on how you can utilize it or how you can use it to augment your skills. But at the same time, just today, I have been, in a session that we have been creating an AI in-service training for our colleagues, and we spent hours and hours how we want to deliver it. We talk about the burnout at the same time, because teacher well-being, and I mean parent well-being, because we have been under bombardment of all these tools, and the hype of AI. And as, for example, Lena mentioned, for some of the adults, this is not an option. I mean, it's not optional. You must learn it if you want to keep your job. And that brings some kind of stress, anxiety, and emotional struggle at the same time, because there is a lot of other stuff going on maybe in your life. But at the same time, you need to very fast and rapid to learn these skills. And sometimes people feel alone in doing this, because it's not just about randomly buying, a subscription, just ChatGPT with subscription, and okay, you can use it, because you need to give the training to your staff. If you are an institution, if you're a school, you need to invest in the skill, like upskilling, reskilling your staff. And that's definitely, like Nila mentioned, it's very helpful in order to improve your productivity. Of course, it can help you maybe find some better content and materials in teaching. For a Latin teacher, or maybe finding stories, creativity, you can use it in every sense. However, it depends on maybe the priorities and what you need, like everybody mentioned, and how you need it. So I think structuralizing and maybe giving the training, the necessary training, and maybe serving it to the staff and adults, because, as a teacher, I might have a different training, but also I think everyone needs this algorithm, awareness of this algorithm and its effects on the society. That's also another thing. It's not only AI, it's how it functions and how, this attention economy. I really, really I'm concerned about this, because this scrolling, and some people don't know that, like, I think Anne mentioned that, yes, you have access to free tools, but in return, of course, you are selling your data. And in algorithms, we even don't know that, are we having our freedom of choice? We don't know, because it brings me something, and I don't know if, this is something that I would like to choose from other options. Something, so adults, I guess, are very important in terms of understanding AI, digital world, big tech critically, because we are the parents, because we are the teachers, we are the mentors. So I think maybe peer-to-peer learning, maybe doing some, for example, I will be doing this voluntary, there's the smartphone free childhood movement. Maybe you heard about that. It started in London, right? So it started also in Turkey, and I will be volunteer as a parent to talk about AI in a very, big group of people online. So I think that's something that we can give in to people, we can share. I'm sure everybody's doing the same here. So this is how I think we might, increase the awareness.
Thank you. We're all really good points. And we're out of time, so I just want to close with Anne. Yeah. What is there? We didn't get your viewpoints. Yeah, these have been a really great discussion, and I love everything that you have all shared, insights about, what are we doing? What can we do together? So thank you so much. So Anne, what are your closing thoughts on any of these topics or the specific one about reaching adults? Because you also have to convince the parents, right?
Yeah, I do have to convince the parents, and I echo so many of your points too, so I can't add anything except to say for the adults, I think everyone's adult in the audience, you know, I'm really interested in your feedback and your thoughts on Big Sister and how we're trying to do it responsibly, the way we're using AI in a contained way. So please meet me on LinkedIn or something like that, because I'm really interested to hear your thoughts as well. And it was lovely to hear from everyone on the panel, actually. It's so nice to be. Thank you, Angeline, for bringing us all together. Yeah, that was my final thought.
Thank you. So now we have the youth panel. Yeah. So I'm going to ask them how they reach the adults in their life.
Yes.
Very good question.
A very good question.
The last time we had
question.
I called it a Gen Z panel. I said, please don't call us Gen Z. We're just young people.
I know.
And stop saying that we're the problem. So, because you're all the problem. So I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
Thanks to all of you.
Yeah.
And thanks a lot for everything, Angeline. This has been an amazing event. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
and
really.
it's great to be with you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I can only echo what everybody has said. So yes.
Yeah.